Hello, welcome to episode 116 of the Epic Film Challenge 2, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die, 1976's Network. Now, I just talked about this film for about 15 minutes and I was talking myself in circles. I'm mad as hell. I'm not going to take this anymore, and I'm being serious, despite quoting the film. And so I'm going to start again, and let's try and do this. Right, Network. Let's roll up the sleeves, shall we? Network is a film about some people working in the television industry, and I'm getting bogged down with the details of everything, but it's about a network called UBS. And within this network, they have, you know, the regular programming, and they have their news station, things like that. So we have all the people who work in this industry for this network, which is kind of struggling. It's trying to find its feet with the ratings, and that's what this film was all about, is the ratings and the bottom line and the money and the percentages and the advertising, all that kind of stuff. And we have a character called Howard Beale, played by Peter Finch, and he is a newscaster who has been dealt his 2 weeks notice. You know, he's done his time basically, and he's on a downward spiral. He's had some personal tragedies in his life, and he's got 2 weeks left on the job. And so he goes on air and he says, I'm going to kill myself live on air next Tuesday. I'm going to blow my brains out. And it's so out of the blue, and the people in the control room aren't really even paying attention, and then suddenly all hell breaks loose, and so they have to decide what to do. The people who are in charge of the news station, and then the network, and then the corporation that is in control of the network, and it goes to all these higher chain of commands, and we have all these characters who are introduced who play different parts in what goes out on air live on television, and they have to deal with the Howard Beale problem. What do we do with this guy who made the ratings spike by saying he was going to kill himself live on air? Obviously, we take him off the air, you know, but he ends up going back on the air. And again, he kind of says something that that kind of really arises the attention of the world, and so they basically put him on air again, and they give him his own show where he can say what he wants, and he's clearly going through a mental breakdown, and they kind of exploit that and give him his own show, and it becomes a hit. And it's about the rise of this network through exploitation, I think, is what the real key to the story is. Now, the cast is phenomenal. The cast is incredible. You have Faye Dunaway, Peter Finch, William Holden, Robert Duvall. The cast is just it's the gift that keeps on giving. The cast is phenomenal, and the cast makes the film. The writing is stellar. It really, really is. And I was making this huge point that I got off track on for about 7 minutes in the video I recorded for this previously. What I wanted to say was this film feels like a film that's been written. It feels very writerly. It feels like this idealized version of the world where everyone gets to speak in the way that they really want to express themselves in the most eloquent way possible. It's like that thing where you have an argument with someone, or someone's pissed you off, and you just don't get there in time, and you always think to yourself, oh, I wish I'd said that, you know, oh, I wish I'd said that to them in this way, with these words. But in this film, everyone gets to do that, you know. Everyone has these witty lines. Everyone has these long sentences riddled with alliteration that's so pitch perfect that at times I do get a little bit drawn out of it, because it doesn't feel like a real person talking. It feels like a performance of a really elaborately written script. Now, a lot of films do that, and it's a detriment to the movie. In this case, I think the performances are so good, it comes back round again and makes me believe in it all over again, because it's just such an engrossing film because of the characters. William Holden was fantastic as a guy who's in charge of the news station, and he goes through a kind of personal crisis throughout the film. Faye Dunaway was phenomenal as this woman who is in charge of kind of getting the ratings really going for this network. Robert Duvall as the guy who works for a corporation, he was very good as well. And then Peter Finch, who plays Howard Beale, like I said earlier, who is this guy who's going through a mental breakdown, and you see that on air every single night when they give him this show, and he believes he's getting these visions and things, and he kind of becomes this prophet to the masses through the TV. And he was great. And it's one of those films that I'd heard a lot about. Its reputation preceded it, like a lot of films do that are in this book, 1001 Movies You Must See Before You Die. But this one really lived up to what it was sold to me as. Not directly, but things that I'd read. I even heard in a podcast recently how great this film was. And people sell this on the script, and on the characters and the performances, and that's really what it is. And what's another thing that's really impressive about this film to me is the sound design. The way that it was blocked, or must have been blocked, and the way that it was directed by Sidney Lumet. Because you have all these scenes where, there'll be characters in the control room, who are kind of overseeing the production of the TV show that's going out live, 5, 3, 2, 1, roll the tape, we're going back on and we're taking a break, and they're doing all these things and pushing the dials and touching the buttons and twisting the knobs, and things are going on, and we're seeing stuff that's happening on the TV set. We got Peter Finch as Howard Beale, and he's screaming and shouting at the camera. The cameramen are moving backwards, they're trying to get him all in frame because he's going all over the place and he's going crazy. We cut back to the control room, they're talking to someone on the phone about this, what should we do about the guy who's doing all, he's right live on air right now, and then you got someone else talking, and we hear the voice on the TV, and the stuff coming out of the phone, and all these different audio levels, and they have to time it, and just, it's endlessly impressive in terms of the manic kind of scenes that unfold, and the way that the audio is worked into it so that you get all the key information. I really like that. The editing was very good, just the pacing of the cutting, scenes where people would open a door and slam it shut, and then as the door opens again you're in another room with another character, and it just moves the plot forward, very snappy. And there's a lot of dark humor in this film, and I would say it was absolutely a satire, but I think the director said that, or even the writer perhaps might have said, don't quote me on this, that it was more of a reflection of the times. Now, 1976, at this point, television had been around for a couple of decades, something like that, and it was really an indictment on the television generation. And it's about that. It's about people being so plugged into TV, and how people are trying to exploit that at the same time. Again, you have people talking about the percentages, the ratings, and how cutthroat this business of network television is. Trying to get the #1 show, trying to get ratings, all this stuff, at the expense of humanity almost. I really get that feeling from it. This film it swept the Oscars, didn't quite make the clean sweep. I mean, it was nominated for almost everything, pretty much. I think it's the last film to have been nominated for 5 acting awards. I think there was 2 for Best Actor, and then I guess it would have been 3 supporting ones as well. I mean, or 2 supporting ones and Best Actress. So we have Peter Finch, who played Howard Beale. He won for Best Actor. Unfortunately, he passed away before he was able to accept the award. Was the first posthumous Oscar to be awarded to an actor. And then we had Faye Dunaway, who won Best Actress, the Oscar. And then we have Beatrice Straight, who won Best Supporting Actress. And she plays the wife of William Holden's character, and she's in the movie for 5 minutes and 2 seconds. It is the shortest performance to win an Oscar in Oscar history. And I thought she did a great job, I really did. And I enjoyed her character in Poltergeist, which we watched a couple of weeks ago. But yeah, she had a great scene in the film, and it won her an Oscar. Who knew? Very interesting. And I think that Best Film went to Rocky that year, which I think Sidney Lumet was a bit annoyed with, openly. But it had all this acclaim, and it certainly lived up to it. And I really enjoyed every second of where the story was going, and a powerhouse of a performance from Peter Finch. I do think at one point he went a bit over the top for me, just a little bit. And then there's another character, Ned Beatty, I don't know how you pronounce his name. He has a small role in the film, and his part was a little bit scenery chewing to me. But apart from that, it was a phenomenal film. I loved it. It's definitely one to watch again and again, and it's lots of great scenes in there, and lots of interesting relationships, particularly between William Holden and Faye Dunaway. Their dynamic in the film, and the scenes they have together are very interesting to me, and I love the way that their story throughout the film played out, and that was probably my favourite part, I think. But I also loved the what we would look at now as being the satire of all of it, and that kind of indictment of the television generation, to reuse the term I coined earlier. That's really what I feel like this film is about, almost to the point of it being quite a black comedy. It really is. Like, there's some dark humor, especially towards the end. There's a stunning ending to this film, which just, it really puts a button on everything that the film was building up until that point, and I think it's very effective for what it is. And the most interesting thing about Network is that it still fits, man. It still fucking fits. I mean, swap out television for social media, you've got a film. You know, swap out, you know, the cutthroat nature of the industry for, you know, anything these days. I mean, it really does. It's a film that was made, I mean, 1976. You know, was that 1890? Yeah, it's 40 years ago. 40 years ago this film was made, right? 10 years shy of half a century. And it is still relevant today. It really, really is. I mean, it's almost shocking, right? How on point it is at times. So that, I think, is the most interesting watching it now in 2016. But it's a great film, littered with great performances. I mean, the cast just keeps on giving. I noticed a very fresh-faced Lance Henriksen in the film. He had no lines, but you know, but the main cast, just phenomenal. Really, really great. And I think that Peter Finch really wanted the role of Howard Beale, and he campaigned for it, and he got it. He nailed it, and then he won an Oscar for it, and that was the last thing he did. Well, I'm not sure. There might have been another film that he did that came out afterwards, but you know, to kind of go out one of your final films and win the Oscar for it, even though he sadly passed before it, is still a pretty good way to go out. You know, to leave your mark like that as kind of a swan song. I think I read that the famous scene where he's talking about, you know, I'm mad as hell and I'm not going to take this anymore. Apparently they had to do 2 different takes of it because he was so in bad health at the time. So yeah, great film, Network. Really, really loved it. Is it a film we'll see before you die? I almost forgot. Absolutely, absolutely. Yeah, like I said, like the script, the screenplay is really, really sharp, and it goes to that kind of Aaron Sorkin kind of thing. I'd be very surprised if he wasn't a big fan of this film, and his films very much feel like this. Steve Jobs was a film where I kind of felt like, you know, everyone's been written here. Like, it just felt a bit too writerly, but it still worked because it was so damn good. If you can write something where, you know, everyone speaks just perfectly and fluently and they have all these great lines, if you nail it to like the nth degree, it works and you can pull it off, you know. But there is a fine line there, you know, of having other characters maybe not be quite as eloquent and things like that. But with Network, everyone's firing on all cylinders, so it just works. So there we go. Thank you for watching. Let me know your thoughts on Network, and I'll see you in the next video.